We've got a great group. Joining me now are three small business owners from across the United States to discuss how the pandemic has affected their operations and influenced their outlook for the future. I love small business folks and how they just figure out how to, change the game when stuff comes along. So we're going to get into that. Necia Boston is the founder of BAABS Beauty Bar, if I'm saying it right, in Greenville, North Carolina. I can't wait to learn more about the beauty bar. Nicole Orr is co-owner of A&C Pack and Ship in Baltimore. Everybody is packing and shipping today, so I assume your world is booming. And Amy Paulose is president of AMES International and Emily's Nuts and Chocolates in Fife, Washington. It's great to have you all. So we've been talking about the state of small business in America and what you're doing. And and I just want to tell everybody, I know that it's not a rah-rah, kumbaya story for everybody out there. There have been real challenges during this time. But I want to start with Necia, because you have this beauty bar. I want to tell our audience about it. But what I'm really intrigued with, if the notes are right that my team has given to me, is you may not want to go back to in-person stuff, if I have that right, because you're doing so well online. So without me putting words in your mouth, tell us what's going on.
Okay, so hi, my name is Necia Boston. I am an esthetician and a makeup artist. And we have a beauty bar in Greenville, North Carolina. Right. And we provide full spa services. So, during the pandemic, we shut down we were mandated to shut down for 4 months. And I opted to stay closed an extra month because I was not quite comfortable going back doing face-to-face. And we were able to do that because of our online presence. So you are absolutely right. It was a hard decision to come back because we do love our customers. We did come back. But because we were able to pivot during the pandemic and focus on our e-commerce, that was able to support us during a 5-month closure. And we almost did not come back. So you are absolutely correct.
So let me ask, Necia, so two questions. What, if any, because I've also heard that you've had a tough time navigating, we're here in the federal government, we're talking to legislators, we got pumped so much money out there to small businesses, but I heard it was a little rougher for you. And just give us a little bit of the nuts and bolts of how you made that inflection jump, into digital.
Right. So before the pandemic, we had our e-commerce business selling our cosmetic line, BAABS Beauty. And because I was splitting my time between servicing our customers and focusing on the e-commerce was kind of set to the back burner. So when all of the programs came out with, like mentioned before, PPP and the EIDL, we were excited to apply for them. But because for my particular business, most of my employees are contractors, we weren't eligible to receive any of those types of fundings. So we did have to deep dive into focusing on the e-commerce and really putting that business out there in front of our customers and getting new customers in order for us to bring in those revenues so that we could survive while we were closed.
Wow. Now, are those your products behind you on the shelf?
Yes.
Will you what's in the pink little box?
Oh, these are eyelashes.
Oh, those are eyelashes. Great. I'm going to jump to Amy and Nicole in a moment. But have you thought about selling any of these in China?
Oh, yes, definitely. With listening to the president of Alibaba earlier, that is one of the platforms that we have looked at as far as expanding our reach into other areas outside of just the United States and some of the other countries that we work with wholesaling our products. So we are definitely interested in expanding that and working with other countries to make sure that we just reach everybody that we can reach.
So interesting. Amy, let me jump to you for a second. Now, I'd love that, if you have products on you, if you have some chocolate bars or chocolate pieces behind you, that'd be kind of fun to know about. But, as I understand it, your firm has grown very, very large, but it, was really a family-owned business, started small, but you found your way to the global marketplace from Fife, Washington. Tell us a little of the story of what you've been up to.
Absolutely. So for us, being in the Pacific Northwest, trade is kind of inherent to this community and a very important part of it. And so from a very early start, we certainly looked to export markets to see what the opportunities were. And for us, China has been an important market as well as other Southeast Asian and Asian countries. However, during the pandemic, what was really interesting is because of our involvement in some of these markets, we were starting to see some of the trends or changes and shifts in purchasing behavior. Because they obviously experienced it a bit earlier than us here in the US. So it allowed us kind of some insights to start thinking about, well, if the pandemic did move to the US, how are we going to have to shift our business? What are some of the things that we might have to take a look at? How is our customer base going to change and hopefully expand?
Now, let me ask you this, because I've been was involved in trade policy for almost 20 years. And it used to be complex for some exporters. It didn't matter if you made baseball bats or, Ford automobiles, or you were trying to sell services. If a market like Japan, which was very robust at that time, wanted what you had, it was easy. But if there were complexities or other manufacturers you had competition, what is the playing field like now? I mean, Alibaba is sponsoring this, but I don't want to make it just about Alibaba. But I want to ask the question: have those so-called non-tariff barriers largely disappeared? Are you finding, if you're accessing China or Southeast Asia, that those problems that used to be endemic? We're going to have Frank Lavin on this show later, and I'm going to talk to Frank about it because he's a veteran of those battles. But I mean, has it become easier so that you don't have to necessarily learn Chinese or Indonesian or I'm just sort of interested in that.
Yeah, absolutely. I would certainly say the interest and the demand for American products throughout the world still is very strong, and it exists. I think inherently consumers and individuals were always seeking something new. So these markets are certainly available. Has it gotten easier? In some areas, absolutely. In some countries, it is still very difficult. China, most recently, because of the tariffs that have been applied. And so what consequently has resulted is that you've seen an opportunity for domestic companies within China to become more competitive with American products, or find ways in which they could potentially create products that are similar to those of exporters. So the trade barriers that were put in place in the last 2 to 3 years have significantly impacted our domestic in-country trade opportunities. However, platforms such as Alibaba and Tmall, because of China's clever approach to welcoming trade in certain areas, there are certain duty-free zones that make it very practical and easy to do business. And again, platforms such as Alibaba really do kind of help spearhead and walk you through that process to be able to do that.
So fascinating. Now, Nicole, you're my neighbor. As I understand, you're in Baltimore, right? So you're my close. I can stop in and see it. Now, tell me what a multi-carrier shipping outlet, that's what A&C Pack and Ship allegedly is. What does that mean?
Basically, we have everyone up under one roof. Most people are familiar with going to either their FedEx stores and UPS stores, but we actually have UPS, FedEx, DHL, the post office. We are also have a division of international freight forwarding called Callistian Logistics. So we have everyone up under one roof.
Wow. And so you've got all these folks under one roof. So you're like it reminds me of Chicago, where all the trains would meet in one station. You would kind of, go on different tracks. But I guess, the question is, as shipping commerce has basically boomed as a result of COVID, so much more has gone online. I mean, and I know I've been told that you've got a specialty in terms of expanding services in Africa and the Caribbean as well. So I am interested in I hate to call them small firms, but non-huge firms that have an international orientation. What does it mean to you to be looking at expanding services in those parts of the world? How are you doing it?
Basically, we're just creating alliances across the waters. We have people here that are operating on both sides that we ship their products to them. For instance, we have builders in Jamaica that we ship forklifts and things and different products back and forth, for them so that they're able to carry on their business. We also ship for clothing companies that's what they want to be able to get fabrics back and forth from Ghana and other parts of Africa back to the United States so that they can make different apparel. So our main thing is bringing economic resources and keeping the prices low so that their bottom line they're able to meet.
Well, like Necia, I heard that you didn't have an easy time with PPP and dealing with various forms of government support during the pandemic either. And according to this, I was you reportedly said if I'd been a restaurant or bar, it would have been different. But in this world, there's a lot set up for restaurants and bars, and you sort of felt not for others, which is a part of this I hadn't heard before. So tell us more.
Basically, our business is it's logistics, and it was kind of left out of most industries in regards to any grants or any opportunities for PPP, because we were new. We were fresh out the gate like December 2019. So we had to survive, and we had to do a lot of pivoting because we were brand new. We were hit with COVID, it seems like in March of 2020. And we were not eligible for a lot of things. And if you weren't necessarily a restaurant or if you weren't a bar and things like that, we kind of fell through the cracks. So every step we had to keep reinventing ourselves. So
wow, Necia and Amy and also Nicole. But Necia, have you had problems, as we've been reading, retaining or hiring or finding workers? Do you have the staff you need? Are you able to contract for it? What's your situation with what we're reading about is such a tight labor pool of people who are not ready for whatever reason to be back at work?
Most definitely. We are seeing a big issue with staffing, specifically in the beauty space. We had an issue before with staffing, but now because there are so many grants and other funding out there, there's a rise of service providers that want to have their own businesses, which we definitely encourage. But at the same time, we also need staff to work with our clients in our respective businesses. So it is definitely harder to find qualified staff and staff that want to stay and actually grow with your business.
Amy, what's the situation with AMES and with Emily's Nuts and Chocolates?
Yeah, in the manufacturing, and we are food manufacturing, we are in a very competitive labor market here in the Seattle-Tacoma area. So we are competing with, Amazon warehouses that are starting at $15 to $18 an hour. So it is a real challenge for us. We've been fortunate that we have had a very loyal and consistent labor force. We have a lot of referral. And for us, it was about creating an environment in which people felt comfortable to come to work, particularly during the pandemic. So we spent a lot of time making sure that PPP was available. Our local Tacoma Economic Development Board was a huge help in that. Early on, they provided us masks as small businesses, gloves, sanitizer, and that frankly helped us stay open during that time and make sure that our employees were taken care of.
Amy, if you were to give Necia, who has a potential export sitting right behind her shoulder, about one thing to think about, whether it's in China or other parts of the world, what's the most important thing in terms of taking your product from this country and thinking about international?
You will be surprised at the opportunities. Take it slow. Partners such as Alibaba are really great. They're like it was said earlier, there is so much information and so much desire to try new things. And American products, there is such an appreciation for the trends that we are developing, the products that we are developing, and consumers are eager. I think the one thing very, very quickly is videos, anything that you can do that just, really creates that one-on-one connection with the consumer that demonstrates your product will really certainly make you successful.
Nicole, I'm going to give you the last word here, last two quick things. One, which is the best carrier under your many carriers? That's part one.
Oh, man.
And then part two, if there's one thing you needed to help you, because you're in the service, as you said, you're in logistics. It's a very different thing, but logistics is also an arena that people purchase and value that service. There's one thing that you needed to help propel you along, because, partly we're having folks watch this so they can learn from you. What's the one thing that would have helped a lot, or will still help a lot?
Right now,
oh wait, you forgot my first question. You forgot my first question.
Oh, well, the first question, let's see. I like them all. They all have their own issues. And I'm just going to be diplomatic about it. I really don't have a preference because they all have their issues. I would say that. I think they do the best that they can with the resources and the people that they have. I don't like the fact that there are a lot of different surcharges. So, and that pretty much comes with all of them. So, I mean, I'm just going to be diplomatic. They all have their issues. I like them all.
So what's the one thing you need?
I think that for small businesses, one thing we definitely need is more support from our government officials. I think that they really need to kind of hone in on making information understandable and accessible. And I think that's just flat out for all businesses. Definitely for me. Because some things you can read and it's not really clear and it's very confusing, even to attorneys. Like I can have my attorney reading and he's confused. So just definitely making it accessible and just understandable. So from our local governments.
Well, listen, thank you. What a wonderful conversation. I'm going to stop in Baltimore and hopefully, experience the eyelash box someday and, definitely go for Emily's Chocolates. But listen, Necia Boston, founder of BAABS Beauty Bar, Nicole Orr, co-owner of A&C Pack and Ship, and Amy Paulose, president of AMES International. What a pleasure to talk to all of you. Thank you for sharing your stories with us.
All right. Thank you
for having us.
Thank you for having me.